Okay, so we'll talk about ethics here right quick. And I have listed here the big five issues that permeate throughout the criminal justice system. So, with this, we have preferential treatment, corruption, integrity, bribes, and gratuities there. Um, so, with preferential treatment, I imagine you can understand what that would be. Um, and kind of a quick and easy way to describe that would be you are a police officer and you make a traffic stop, and you find that the driver of the vehicle is one of your friends. Instead of giving them a ticket like you normally would anybody else, you're like, it's my buddy, I'll give him a little cover here, and you give him a warning, or you even just make the stop go away. Um, that would be an ethics violation, and it permeates the system, not just in law enforcement, um, but even with even in the correctional system. We have correctional officers who will develop relationships with the inmates who are housed in their facilities. Not necessarily an inappropriate relationship, but I mean, kind of like the relationship that I develop with you students throughout the semester. Um, Eventually, as we progress through the semester, you get to know me, I get to know you, and we develop a relationship, not an inappropriate one. But if I were to say, okay, you're one of my better students, so I'm going to let you slide on some assignments. That would not be fair of me to other students in the class um, who are not as task oriented as you might be. And it works the same way in corrections there, where the inmates who are the quote good inmates in prison might find themselves to be the subject of preferential treatment, where the officers don't push them as hard whenever they send them to their work detail, or they look past a minor violation or something like that. So it becomes an issue. Corruption is um, is a bit different. Actually, it's quite a bit different from a preferential treatment, and from integrity, bribes, and gratuities. Corruption here is going to be more along the lines of violating your deontological ethics, which is your duty to act. Corruption is going to be the thing where you become involved with the drug dealer, and you see the drug dealer or his enforcer, his or her enforcer. Yeah, I've seen Queen of the South. So um, you see their enforcer uh, tuning somebody up. You're a police officer. You have the responsibility to stop that beating and arrest the violator. And if you just sit back and watch it happen and then tell somebody, hey, why don't you make sure that don't happen next time? That is a prime example of corruption. And because you basically are in the position of a good guy with a badge, but you're being a bad guy. And believe it or not, that has actually happened here a couple of years ago. There was a corruption case on the chief of the Tyrone, Oklahoma Police Department. And he wound up getting sent up for some violations of some stuff. And the scenario that I just described is actually something that he actually was accused of. I don't know if he was found guilty, but he certainly was charged with it. So then that brings us to integrity, and integrity is basically doing the right thing, even though nobody's looking. So integrity would be like if you get sent to, well, here's an example. This actually happened to me here a while back. I was in a foot chase with a subject who had a felony warrant, and he wound up dropping stuff as he was trying to put it into his pockets. And a couple of the things that he dropped were a baggie of meth, his meth pipe, and a $100 bill. Now, I was the only person who knew that he dropped those three items in the chase that I was chasing him in. I could have very easily collected the meth, collected the pipe, and pocketed the $100 bill, and nobody would have known. But that would have not been right, would have been an integrity violation. And so all three items, the meth, the pipe, and the $100 bill, were processed into evidence because it was the right thing to do, even though I was the only one who even knew that $100 bill existed other than the guy I was chasing. And he certainly wasn't going to come back and say that somebody stole his $100 bill, because then we would arrest him. So that's where you have that issue there. Then you have bribes, which is where you don't necessarily actively participate in criminal activity like corruption, but you are paid to ignore criminal activity. So it's like, you're a patrol officer in the industrial district. You know that this warehouse is where this particular crime outfit operates, and they pay you money to keep your patrols away from their building. So that, so there you're not actively participating in their criminal acts, but you are taking money in exchange for not doing something to help them get away with it. And then there's gratuities, which is the flip side of a bribe, which is where somebody gives you something of value in the hopes that you will do more. The biggest example that I always hear, and this is probably the most debated thing, is free pops at Hutch's. We go to Hutch's gas station. There's one right here across the street from the college. We go in there. They will not charge us if we get a fountain drink in there. But it's a company policy. They don't charge any emergency responders. And it's because it's not a gratuity in that they want us to come in and extra patrol their place, because it's not just the police. If it were just the police, it would be a gratuity, but it's just a gift from them to show their appreciation to emergency responders. Whereas a gratuity would be, hey man, you come around here to, come around IHOP in the middle of the night, we'll give you, free breakfast or something, because they want to encourage us to frequent their establishment over other places to cut down on criminal activity. So that's the big five that you'll encounter. And we'll talk a lot more about ethics in chapter 3, but hopefully this will give you some idea of what's going on as we move forward. So I will see you all in class next week.